So, moving on to the next topic, definitely one that is very pertinent right now. We are going to be discussing all this, just disrespect and etc. that a lot of Black athletes are facing from fans. And our official question is, are people being racist by treating NBA players like they're in a zoo? And, I'm going to go ahead and start us off on this. And I'm going to say, absolutely, without any equivocations, yes, they are. This is a matter of racism. And anyone who wants to deny it and claim otherwise is not living in reality. Because you take a look at these incidents that are continuing to happen, they are not happening to white athletes. And I'm sorry that that makes folks uncomfortable to recognize, and they want to say, no, it's about the individual and what they did. That's bullshit. There are plenty of white athletes who don't perform as you would expect them and etc. And you don't see them face some of the same things that Black athletes have faced, not only recently, but in the history of sports, especially in the NBA. Bill Russell has been very, very vocal about some of the things that he faced a long time ago, some of the racial epithets that he recalled and was hurled at him on a nightly basis by home team fans. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar discussed some of the same things. It's crazy. Think about the Ron Artest situation that happened many, many years ago, where two fans threw beers on him and etc. It ended up being a big old brawl in the stands. I mean, let's not even get started on all of the incidents and issues that have happened with athletes in Boston. Which, people want to deny this, but has been known to be a fairly racist town. I mean,
Well,
this
Boston's
is
a
an
really
open
sick
and
place.
shut.
I ain't gonna lie. That's a
Yeah,
very
I
sick.
mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, I'm just saying, like Boston has, and and I'm only saying this because this is somebody who works in I wouldn't say sports, but I also do a lot of things with sports and fitness and whatnot. And I'm always around like the whole sports realm, especially a whole lot with youth sports. And a lot of things that happen in Boston. I used to read a whole lot when I first
Yeah.
started, this whole thing about me being into sports and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole lot that goes down in Boston. And Boston is not it's a very sports, like, it's a very, sports type of state,
Absolutely.
and they love their sports, but they're very, a lot of them are very disrespectful people. They feel that, when you buy a ticket, you feel like you can say what you want to say, to
Yeah, and
certain, people, which
and
is
I agree with that, but I'm going to take it a step further and say that the racism that is embedded in that city is displayed in how they treat Black athletes, because it's not just a racism towards athletes thing in Boston. That town is known for it generally being difficult and Black people having to face many different forms of racism in that town. I mean, this is like the way that I feel about it is it's like a known thing, right? Because you're absolutely correct, and that was actually going to be one of my points. I understand that Boston is one of those very proud towns for its team, the Red Sox, the Celtics. There was a whole movie with Damon Wayans called Celtic Pride, right? And it's a movie about two crazed Celtic fans and etc. And I get it. It's a town that is very proud of its teams, but the underlying issue there is that it's also a town that has had a large amount of racial incidents towards Black people in general. And I mean, let's be frank, right? You can pretty much go to any city across the United States and bring up historical racial events that have occurred. But there are some towns where it's a little more, for lack of a better term, known and accepted than in others. And I feel like Boston is one of them. But my points are not even to just focus on Boston, because the point here is that it absolutely, in my opinion, without question, is a matter of racism. The way that some of these NBA players are being treated. I mean, you can't expect for these human beings to accept certain behaviors just because they're athletes. They're humans first, and they don't deserve it. So someone underperforms, that gives someone in the fans the right to throw popcorn on them, like what happened to Russell Westbrook, or to have a bottle thrown at them, like what happened to Kyrie Irving? Absolutely not. Absolutely. And both of those incidents are recent for folks who don't know. Absolutely not. And unacceptable. And I'm sorry, but someone give me an example of when that has happened to a white NBA player. Not even just recently, in general. Give me the example, please, of a fan throwing a bottle at a white NBA player who underperformed. You think that would happen to Luka Doncic here in Dallas? No way.
I mean, it happened
And
to
I'm
Dirk.
sorry, but
So
the reality of it is, yes, these are acts of racism. It's unacceptable. These are not zoo animals. You should not, first of all, you shouldn't treat zoo animals that way, but hey, we can't expect but only so much from racists, right? The underlying issue is that they're racist, so they're pieces of shit. So if you're talking about should we expect something different, yeah, we have the right to expect non-racist behavior from fans in the stand. We have the right to expect that. We have the right to expect that, not just as athletes that these fans are so-called, or should be appreciative of, but as human beings. And I'm sorry, but every one of these incidents that have occurred is just that, an act of racism. It's unacceptable. These athletes have rights, and their rights should not be overshadowed by the fact that they're NBA players or professional athletes. And I'm happy to hear that some of these stadiums and arenas have stepped up and said, oh, this fan is banned for life. He can't ever return, and etc., which I want to say is what happened with the fan that threw the popcorn on Russell Westbrook. I want to say that what happened was that fan was banned from returning to any of those NBA games. But it's like, at the same time, that's a slap on the wrist. That's assault. Some of these people need to face charges, because until that happens, they will continue to have this nonchalant attitude about acts of racism. That was an act of racism. I don't give a fuck if it was just popcorn. That's not the point. You can't just throw things at someone because you don't like how they're behaving and etc., and because of the color of their skin. Unacceptable. So yes, these are acts of racism. Yes, I do think that harsher penalties need to occur, because until then, we won't really see change in this regard. And those are my thoughts on the matter. So I know that was quick, but for me, it's pretty quick, cut and dry. So I'm going to throw that over to you, Mr. PAT. Again, the official question is, are people being racist by treating NBA players like they are in a zoo? What say you, sir?
All right, so just hearing all this shit, it just makes me think, man, like, I guess this is a day and time where NBA fans just want to act stupid. I mean, what the fuck is up with people throwing things like bottles of water and popcorn at people? Like, seriously, what the fuck is up with that shit? That's really the question that comes to mind for me. Has the NBA become some kind of circus or some kind of zoo? you know, that's what it sounds like. And I'm just gonna say that the animals are not the human beings playing the sport. The animals are the ones in the stands who are throwing things at the players.
Ooh, get them, sir.
I mean, like, seriously, it just makes me ask, where are these people's home training at? Why is it okay?
In a zoo, of course.
Why is it okay for you to be uncivilized? Like, seriously, where the fuck are your manners? That's really the question I would have for these people. Where the fuck are your manners? Where the fuck is your home training? Because, I mean, just hearing all this, it's just really egregious. I'm going to quote something that Kevin Durant had to say. And it's, I mean, obviously it's something that I agree with. But he said, in quote, "Fans got to grow up at some point. I know that being in the house for a year and a half with the pandemic got a lot of people on edge, got a lot of people stressed out. But when you come to these games, you have to realize these men are human," end quote. He also said, quote, "We are not animals. We are not in the circus. You coming to the game is not all about you as a fan. So have some respect for the game. Have some respect for the human beings, and have some respect for yourself. Your mother wouldn't be proud of you throwing water bottles at basketball players or spitting on players or tossing popcorn. So grow the fuck up and enjoy the game. It's bigger than you."
Ooh,
End quote. So, I mean, that pretty much sums up my stance. Of course, I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Durant. Seriously, people just need to grow the fuck up.
exactly.
For the people out there listening who's doing this shit, grow the fuck up. It's really that simple. Grow the fuck up. Now, I like the fact that racism was brought up by some of the players, because incidents like these do highlight the fact that people in the stands don't actually see these black men playing on the basketball court as human beings. They just see them as well-trained animals who are there for the sole purposes of their entertainment. We already know racist people don't respect black people's humanity. They just think that black people are here to entertain them. Either we have to run a ball up and down a court or a field for them, or we have to make them laugh. That is basically what they think our purpose in life is.
Ooh, sir.
So
You preaching now.
so, I mean, it's definitely something I'm passionate about, because I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just really fucking ridiculous. Even just hearing it, reading about it, it's fucking ridiculous. But going back to, racist. So with that train of thought, where, we basically have to run a ball up and down a court or a field, or, if we're not doing that, we have to make them laugh. With this train of thought, I mean, of course, these folks feel emboldened enough to throw things at NBA players and even spit on them. And sidebar real quick, Trae Young not wanting to press charges against the person who spit on him. I mean, come on, dude. Seriously, you should have went ahead and pressed charges. People need to be taught a lesson. We got to press charges.
Sense. I mean,
straight up.
That makes perfect sense. Sorry to cut you off, PAT. That makes perfect sense. But like, in the sense of like Trae Young, I can see why he didn't do it. Him pressing charges is a very, very, intelligent move,
Right.
But in his mind, he's like, what am I getting out of it? I make millions.
You're punishing a racist. I mean, it's really, to me, it's that simple.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the only thing out of it. And many people probably talked them out of it, by the way,
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where like it's like this bitterness with everyone, because like even though Trae Young, is a millionaire, he has money, he's still human. So like in the back of this mind, it's like, yo, how dare you do this and that and that, Then that enrages somebody to go do something wild and crazy, So it makes so much sense, but he had like for him, when you have a lot of people around you who's teaching you about, you know, just push it away, and be, save some another day, being versus as somebody really coming out there, really going like do something, because that's where some people just take it sometimes, because many people are not in the correct thought about what they do things at the moment. They just react.
Right. They react. And, I mean, I understand all that. But my take, honestly, is, I mean, he should have pressed charges, simple and plain. Whoever is in his corner.
I agree.
And I heard his father was a part of this, too. I guess he maybe is one of the people who, I guess, talked him out of it, if I remember correctly. Either way, whoever's in his corner and I guess told him to not press charges or turn the other cheek. It's like, fuck that. He should have pressed charges. I mean, you got spat on. Somebody fucking spit on you.
That is assault, bro.
Yeah, that's assault.
Full assault.
I mean,
that is some real disgusting ass shit right there. And
yes,
honestly, honestly, whoever does that should just get fucked up. It's really that simple. Like spitting is that's like a low, that's just low. That's just extremely low.
That is low.
You deserve to get your shit knocked in straight up. And just talking about it, I'm feeling passionate because it's like, man, if somebody spit on me, they getting fucked up.
Period.
Period. I mean, that's how I feel, straight up. Because that
I got a story for y'all then.
That's a whole nother low. But just to cap off what I was saying, because I know we need to get to my man E-Man. So NBA players, the fact of the matter is NBA players are human beings who should be respected as such. These men have lives, they have families, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, why do people think it's okay to get out of pocket? Now, is this what we call a civilized society? Is this what we call civilization? Okay, well, I mean, if we do live in a civilized society, let's act like it. For the people out there thinking it's okay to act stupid, seriously, get your act together. If you can't get your act together, then stay in the fucking house. Or, I mean, do you belong in the cage with the real animals? I mean, is that where you belong? If you're going to go out there and act like an animal, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then maybe you belong in that fucking cage with real animals.
Ooh,
I mean, it's really that simple. If the thing is, if you want to say that you don't belong in a cage with real animals, then once again, get your act together. Straight up, get your act together. That's it for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing. Let's go ahead and throw this to Mr. E-Man. And again, just to refresh there, the question is, are people being racist by treating NBA players like they're in a zoo? What say you, sir?
Well, I'm not going to say, them being racist. I would say that, these people, they're more full of themselves. It's more of this, privilege is the wrong word to use, and I need to find the right word, and I'm gonna keep talking until I find the right word. But it's more the sense of, I spend my hard-earned money, I get a chance to go buy a ticket for entertainment, and what basketball is just entertainment, But the entitlement, and I think that's the better word to use, it's this whole entitlement thing, that You know, I can go spend $50 to $100 for a good seat, maybe 300 if it's courtside, or 500. You know, that I can spend so much to sit courtside. You know, go buy me a beer. You know, laugh and do all these crazy things. You know, but they have to understand that, you know, this is just a game at the end of the day, you know?
May I ask a quick question there,
Yes.
Eman? I think that's definitely a good point that you raised, but like, I'm just wondering how come these acts of entitlement don't happen towards white athletes?
I was just about to ask next.
And I will tell you this. I'm gonna tell everyone this. I'll give you the best answer. And this is just me being just me not just working in sports and whatnot, you know? Many, many, many teams and whatnot, you know? And a lot of many that, you know, many of the basketball players that you see who many people consider as white, a lot of them are a lot of foreign players and whatnot. So a lot of players in the NBA don't even live in the US. So they don't even many of them understand or even understand any of the cultures that go around most of them. That's why many people don't know too much about Dirk Nowitzki when he played for the Dallas Mavericks, because he was a German who lived in Germany, who played for the Mavericks, but only, you know, kept to himself. So even Dirk had very bad days, but no one did anything to him because
He
they
also has a
knew,
black wife, just
yeah, because they knew basically he couldn't speak like really good English at the time when he first started playing. You know, there's a lot of it's a lot of weird things that, you know, why they don't, I wouldn't say just do or say. It's more the sense of, you know, like everyone plays this safe card because the simple fact is, you know, oh, you don't speak that good English. But if I say something to you and it comes off bad, what do I look like? A racist. You see how that works?
but
So
they look racist when they're attacking black athletes and
Exactly.
they're not attacking white athletes. This
and
is
and
like,
and what you're saying is making perfect sense. But this is the thing why it doesn't come off racist when you look, and this is how they get everyone, you know. It's because the simple fact is, you know, Russell can speak perfect English. So it's like, so say if like Russell's leaving and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And like, you know, he doesn't say anything, you know, but a fan curses him out. White, black doesn't even matter, you know. He says something back, you know, those people feel like they have the entitlement to do something because he is human. So they're not even thinking about him being a basketball player. They're thinking about the simple fact is like, yo, I'm gonna jump this if you gonna jump in, you know?
so
And
you thinking this is about, you think it's entitlement and nationality, not entitlement and racism?
yes, you know,
Hmm,
yes. If you want, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay, but
And
hold on, real quick. So
hmm?
let's just say it wasn't Dirk Nowitzki. Let's say it wasn't him. Let's say it was like, for example, like a Steve Nash, or
Oh, okay.
Right,
let's say it
exactly.
All
was
right.
somebody like him.
All right.
I mean, has something like this ever happened to him or any of the white players who speak perfect English?
Not to my knowledge.
Not
I
to
can't
my
think of any time I've
knowledge.
heard of
And
it.
and here comes a very interesting thing about, you know, Steve Nash and whatnot. Amazing basketball player, by the way. But when Steve Nash was playing with, you know, with when he was playing for Phoenix, and Phoenix was having like 50, you know, win seasons and whatnot, and they wasn't making it, you know, past the second and third round, you know. They were a lot of people saying a lot of nasty things to Steve Nash, not much to Damian Amir Stoudemire, who was actually the vocal point of that team, by the way, you know. They said a lot of nasty things to him, but Steve basically ignored everything, you know, he's never gotten things thrown on him based upon my knowledge, but I might have to really, look really into it and whatnot, you know. I know Jason Kidd because he's a much older player than Nash and whatnot. Jason never had to deal with certain things, but I feel like he had to deal with a lot more personal things. I feel like more fans said things to him, you know, like personally in his face, and saying very mean gestures like at him, versus as throwing something at them. But you know, and it's sad. Like it's really, really sad, that we can't even enjoy simple things because everyone wants to be in their feelings, like and just to share people this, if many would know what a daily routine is for many professional athletes, because this is their job, not, you know, and for me, I crack up on all of them and whatnot. I still have respect for them and whatnot, but I know what their daily in and outs towards is like, what they do is their job, and many people are so enticed because what I'm saying, like, you want your team to win, like everyone else does, but you get so into something so much that it becomes you and you lose yourself and whatnot, And when you start losing yourself, that's when the craziness start coming out, That's why many people don't want to talk to you.
But if I might, E-Man, my only thing is, if that principle is correct, wouldn't it be that they would be losing themselves equally towards all these athletes as opposed to just the Black ones? Right? So in other words, if it's something they truly can't control, because the point is they're just so enthralled in their fanship. And trust me, as a Patriots fan, I understand where you're coming from, because I used to at one point like get emotionally frustrated when we didn't perform well. However, my only thing is, there's not an even amount of these instances amongst all types of athletes. There's a disproportionate amount of these incidents happening to Black athletes. I'm having trouble accepting that that's a coincidence.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. I mean, it's not. I mean, this is, these behaviors has been going on ever. It's like since when you look at, when it looks at sports, because many of the teams, they put these driving forces towards, many of the Black athletes and whatnot, like even, and I will keep it very easy and simple, many like a Steve Nash and whatnot, even when he played, in Phoenix and whatnot, he wasn't even the star player. It was Stoudemire who was the star player out of everything, It's just that Steve was just a facilitator and he just made everything look good because he had players around him, So when Steve had a bad game, no one cared because, when you look at the tickets, that tells you, who they, who are they like, like focusing on and whatnot, Like an example would be, like with the Bucks now. What was the biggest thing, when the Bucks this year, even though they won the Super Bowl, they put Tom Brady on their tickets because they knew, that's what everyone came to see and whatnot, And that's when people get mad and enraged because they feel like I got to go attack this person because, it's your fault that you lost and whatnot, So I can't really say it could be a whole lot of things and whatnot that embeds this person to do these things, but they're very disrespectful and they feel like they have some type of weird entitlement behind it. And that's where, it leads more down the line. So this guy who threw that water bottle on Russell and everything like that, he probably didn't like Russell.
Russell was the popcorn, the water bottle was Kyrie.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
So no, you're fine.
So the popcorn was Russell and whatnot. So so he threw something that he know that it's gonna bother him, but it wouldn't it won't cause as much damage because it's food and whatnot, and his popcorn is pretty light. So he's just like boom, I'm gonna just throw it in your face and whatnot, So he's probably just angry and he probably has a hate towards like Russell Westbrook. That's how certain people create hate, and that's his issue,
That's definitely a possibility. I think on this one, there isn't enough of these attacks happening to athletes who aren't Black, for me to be comfortable with that, I appreciate, and as always, here on the Good, the Bad, and the Truth, we don't always agree, and that's fine. For me, there is not enough evidence to suggest that this is solely about entitlement and nationality, because it's never, I can't think of one incident that's occurred against a white player in the NBA. I can't. And for me, that's just too high a level of coincidence to accept that this is only about entitlement. I think you're absolutely right to an extent that it is partially about entitlement, but I think it's a combination of entitlement and racism, because there's no way that this entitlement doesn't apply to non-Black athletes. And the fact that there is not one recorded incident, I think the racist fans that are in the crowd feel entitled enough, because they paid their ticket and etc., to show their racist antics. That's what I think.
I mean, that's basically where I'm getting at with this, and that's how I see, since I've been watching, and it's really hard because many of the white athletes, they don't even consider them start. They don't push them the way, because most of them, they know it's a game, and most of them just walk away from it, and I can't really explain, which is more and less and whatnot, because for me, if I go see, like when Steve Nash was playing for Phoenix, and if I was a big Phoenix fan and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't say I hate him, but I wouldn't throw nothing at him, And like, I don't like to say it's different strokes for different folks, but like there's certain people, who ain't that scared, that might do something very wild and crazy and whatnot. And you can't
But
say
the
it's
white
not.
athletes haven't. We can't really say that they would just walk away from it, because they haven't experienced it to say that. We don't know, because it doesn't happen to them.
And I blame, and this is why I blame all owners for it, because many people just don't know that many of your Black athletes that play on a sports team, those people are their stars, because those are the people they know. Those are the people they know that's going to come out to go see them play and whatnot.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Because remember when Donald Sterling was having, like, that whole racist thing with him and, like, Blake Griffin and whatnot. So remember, Blake Griffin was like 22 at the time when he played, for the Clippers and whatnot. But when he first played there, look how big they were pushing him so much, because they knew that's what drove in ticket sales. They want to see Blake Griffin play, just like when Chris Paul was on. They know what to do to get what people. Then afterwards, you start seeing people's behavior when shit don't go right their way. That's But we can't blame it on the athlete. We have to blame it on these individuals who can't act right. So to the statement that Kevin Durant said, I definitely agree with it, because there's certain people who can't get their shit together. Like it's sad.
Let me interject just real quick. So I mean, I think it's obvious that myself and Naya are in agreement in terms of altogether we're in agreement, especially with the racist component. I mean, plain and simple, it's racism. It's hard not to see it as anything otherwise. And the reason I say this is because although I'm not an avid sports watcher, I'm still familiar with the realm of sports, because as I've spoken on in other podcasts, other episodes of our podcast, I mean, I have been in and out, watching it from time to time growing up. I have family members who are heavy into sports. So, I'm familiar with what goes on within the realm of sports. And it's hard for me not to see the racism that goes on within that realm. Now, it's on different levels, obviously, because racism isn't just one thing. You know,
Exactly.
it's a multi-level thing. And yeah, like Naya said, I mean, which white players, which white athletes have gone through the things that the black athletes have gone through? You don't really hear about that, you know,
At all.
And I think it goes back to racism, because I think what happens is the people that are in the stands, the people who watch, you know, the fans, the diehard fans, whoever, it goes back to that self-entitlement, that whole entitlement thing. You know, they just feel that the black players are not human and they're just there for their entertainment. And let's just say if the black players don't perform the way that they would like, or not even just that, if they even just don't like that particular black player, as was mentioned before, I mean, yeah, they feel the need to throw something at the black player or spit on them or whatever. Basically, they feel the need to outright disrespect them. And, you know, I can't see them doing that to a white player. They're going to do it to the black player because on some level, they feel that they have some type of ownership of that black player. You know, they basically, it's like a way of dehumanizing them. And I mean, they're already dehumanized because, you know, that black player is there for the sole purposes of their entertainment. And if you don't entertain me the way that I would like, me, because I pay for these tickets, me, I pay for these tickets, then, you know, I gotta do something to you. And it doesn't matter because to me, you're just not a human being. So that's how it comes across. And I mean, I can guarantee, even though, like I said before, I'm not this avid sports watcher, but I could just guarantee, going off what I heard, the things I know, that white athletes are not being disrespected in this way. And to me, that's not a coincidence.
Wholeheartedly agree.
That's not a coincidence. And this goes to a saying that one of my favorite sayings is, nothing happens in a vacuum. The reason black players are being disrespected in this way is, I mean, because of racism. Let's just put it out there. It's straight up racism. That's what it is.
Wholeheartedly agree, sir. And all righty, man. What say you, sir?
All right, so, you know, just to wrap it up and everything like that, so we can move on to the next topic. So I'm gonna just pull one out of the hat. So I'm gonna just say, you know, I'm not going to, you know, disowners and whatnot, but I'm gonna just say it's just gonna be like the 1992, you know, film White Man Can't Jump. So I'm gonna just leave it as that, and let's move on.
Okay, that's one of my favorite films, by the way.
And that's the reason why they focus a lot more on the black players than the white ones. Because of that movie. Right. And don't blame it on Wesley Snipes.
True. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.